achieved.
Welcome back to Kamikaze Overdrive MMA Predictions. As always, I am your host, Scott Johnson. On this episode of the show, we're taking a look at the upcoming UFC 169 event, which will feature the newly official bantamweight champion, Renan Barao, defending his title for the second time against Urijah, Faber, the top-ranked bantamweight. I'll be giving you my 5 main card predictions. All of my preliminary predictions will be on the kamikazeoverdrive.net website. Also, I'm going to give you my Super Bowl breakdown for both my over-under and winner play between the Denver Broncos and the Seattle Seahawks. And I'll get to that in a moment. I'm coming off a fantastic night. I went 9-2 overall at UFC on Fox 10. I scored a massive personal gain financially for my betting, so my bet packs paid off significantly. And as I tell people, stick with it. They've been increasingly getting better, so you're winning money back, and before you know it, you've got a sizable amount of cash in your account. So please consider buying those bet packs. I also have a number of predictors doing a very good job for me predicting, so make sure you check out the prediction panel along with Josh Harper as well, doing a good job. And if you're, I'm looking to add some female predictors and get their perspective on it. So if you're a fan of MMA and you happen to be a lady out there and you want to maybe do some predictions or post-fight breakdowns, please contact me at kamikazeoverdrive@live.ca and we can certainly discuss that further. But that's all for now. Let's get to that first prediction. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl, actually. So first I'm going to look at Super Bowl 48 and give you my prediction for that event. I'm going to preface it by saying, though, I am a Denver Broncos fan, a Peyton Manning fan, so it might be a little bit of a homer pick. Nonetheless, I'll give you my 2 cents. Currently, the Denver Broncos are a 2-point favorite, and the over-under is set at 47 points, which has come down a little bit. First thing I'm looking at, I'm liking Denver to win the Super Bowl and cover that 2-point spread. That's my pick there. I think Seattle Seahawks are a very good team, defensively sound, but I think they benefit tremendously from the 12th man, the crowd noise they have in Seattle, which they will not have to take advantage of here. And yes, you know, they're a very good team, and again, they ride their defense. But one thing keep in mind here, when you have a guy like Richard Sherman shutting down the top receiver for a team, that allows the defensive line to get to the quarterback quicker and make more plays, put more pressure, and create turnovers and havoc. With Denver and Manning, he's going to look Sherman's way. If that situation is not available, he has a number of other check-down options 2 and 3, whether it be Wes Welker, Decker, any of the guys he can pass the ball to and drop it off with, you know, and that's an opportunity he'll have and that other teams won't, and I think that's going to burn Seattle. And I'm also leaning towards the under. I think that it's a little of a trap line. 47, a lot of people look at that and say, oh, it's the Denver Broncos. They've been 50 and 55 points all year, right in that range. And I really think they will be able to go over. But for me, I'm actually looking at the under. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think you're going to see Denver put some points up early, and they're going to control the clock, control the ball. We've seen many put some big 6-7-minute drives together and end with points. I think that's what it comes down to here. The Broncos will cover the spread, and I'm thinking somewhere in the 34, 10 range, something like that. I just don't see Seattle putting up a lot of points in this game, and so I'm taking Denver to cover the spread and Seattle and the under. So those are my 2 plays for the Super Bowl 48. All right, now let's get back to the MMA. Really, the reason you're here. We're going to kick things off in the UFC's lightweight division. As former WEC champion, 21-8-1 with 2 no contests. Jamie Varner battles Abel Trujillo, 11-5-0 with 1 no contest. Now coming to this bout, Varner is actually filling in for Bobby Green, who had to drop out. Jamie's dropped 2 of his last 3 fights, although controversial in the T-Bow fight, and the low zone was very good back and forth. But he also has wins over Melvin Gillard and Edson Barbosa. That's a pretty impressive resume since coming back to the Zuffa fold. Now Trujillo stopped Roger Bowling in his last fight after the no contest that he was losing, in my opinion, and has lost to Habib Nurmagomedov. Now both guys come from a wrestling background, or primarily the boxer-wrestler type. Varner has 7 wins by knockout. He has that big right hand that has brutal power, which we saw him stop Edson Barbosa with. He really does a nice job of maintaining pressure and keeps his opponents backing up, which really shuts down a lot of their offense. He can cover distance tremendously quickly, that makes sense. With his right hand, he can really cut in there and hammer guys with it, and it's hard to actually gauge how quickly he can get on top of guys and drop that hammer. He likes to go to the body as well, and then he'll come over the top of the right hand when they're worried about the body. And he'll also attack with some wild combos and unleash, which could cost him against a guy like Trujillo who can throw heat. He also likes to change levels and set up his takedowns off his punching combination. Now for Trujillo, he has 4 wins by knockout, 2 in the UFC, stopping Roger Bowling and Marcus Levesser early in his debut. He throws brutal power into everything. Good left hook is his best, which is easily his best weapon. Good elbows, punches, and he really gets some knees going in all sorts of different scenarios. In his first fight with Bowling, he was getting cracked with the right hand, which is certainly concerning against a guy like Jamie Varner. He stood in the pocket and traded, mainly throwing punch in his hands, not a lot of kicks, just a lot of boxing. And I don't like to see a fighter deviate from his kicking game and not mixing things up as effectively. His striking looked much better in the second bowling fight. He was up on the balls of his feet. He showed a lot of good movement, landing with big power as he needs to do, and that's one thing he'll need to do against a very good striker in Jamie Varner. Now on the ground, Varner 3.73 takedowns at 54%. Very good wrestling. He keeps his opponents moving backwards, and they'll change levels very quickly when their back's on the wall and go for that takedown. He's very effective at that. He likes that power guillotine. We saw him attempt it a number of times on Melvin Gillard. And Bowling had some success with some sub-attempts early, grabbing Trujillo's neck on some takedown attempts. Varner very crafty on the ground, veteran fighter, good reversals. He'll take some chances with some submissions, which should cost him positions, and you don't want to let Trujillo on top of you landing some big shots. Now, Trujillo was taken down by Magomedov at will, and Roger Bowling had some success as well. Now, Bowling had success scoring takedowns after attacking with punches, similar to what Varner is going to do in this fight. Now, Trujillo stands a little bit too tall, in my opinion, when he's trading, and that allows guys to get in, take him off balance, and put him on the mat. But he was able to fend off Hester, who was a very good wrestler, when he was looking to take the fight to the ground, and he punished him along the cage, which was an effective turning point in that matchup. Trujillo has some very brutal ground and pound when he starts to open up, and those knees that he throws all his weight into can be devastating. In the first fight against Bowling, he was slowing down. He got tagged with a big shot early. It was a grueling fight, which I expect this one to be. He looked better in the second fight, but he really dictated the pace of that matchup and really didn't get pushed by Bowling. Bowling, to me, looked off, actually. Again, in the second fight, his wrestling was much more effective. He scored a nice body lock takedown. Again, he was very physical, implemented his style. That's going to be tough against Jamie Varner. For me, Varner's simply the better fighter. He needs to watch getting clipped with the big shots, but I think he'll use a similar approach to what he did against Melvin Gillard. Mix up his striking and his takedowns effectively, gain some good positions. He might threaten with a submission here or there. Nonetheless, my prediction is Jamie Varner to defeat Abel Trujillo by decision. In the UFC's flyweight division, number 5 ranked John Hands of Stone Lineker, 23-6-0. Battles number 7 ranked Ali Puncher Bagautinov, 12-2-0. Lineker has weight cut issues. That's one of the biggest things. He's competing at flyweight, but his last 2 bouts have been catchweight bouts because he's failed to make weight. He has been working with Mike Dolce, not so much late. I guess they broke off ties, but nonetheless, he feels he is at a better weight right now heading into the weight cut in the final week, and that should serve him better. Hopefully it improves his cardio as well, which has been an issue in the past. Now, Lineker, brutal knockout power for a flyweight. 11 wins by knockout, 3 in the UFC, and he's never been stopped, so he's got a pretty solid chin. He also has a high work rate, 6.56 strikes landed per minute in his career so far with Zuffa, versus only 2.85 for Bagautinov. That's only 2 fights, so that sample size is a little bit small. Both guys get hit at a high rate, though, compared to what they land, relatively the same. But Lineker's been doing a pretty good job of limiting what his opponents are able to connect with in his last couple of fights. But that Bagautinov fight early in his UFC career was a barn burner and really cracked those stats up. Now, Lineker throws a nice uppercut. He throws some heavy leg kicks, and he has a brutal right hand as well. We saw him crush Gasan with it, and Phil Harris did it very effectively. And he changes levels and mixes up his body shots extremely well. He dropped both of those aforementioned opponents with body shots and did a nice job and really devastated them with those punches. He also throws some counter strikes as guys come in, which he can do a nice job of as well. He has a tendency to get a little bit wild when he gets too aggressive, comes forward, throws some wild hooks. He was taking a few shots from Phil Harris as well, who's certainly not that strong of a striker, and that has a lot to do with the fact that he was just opening up his striking defense and not being intelligent on his attacks. Now, Bagautinov, 5 knockouts, including in his debut over Marcos Vinicius, so he's very capable on the feet. He has very heavy hands. He stopped Vinicius with a big shot on the feet, right down the middle. He throws a lot of hooks, and throws him with power. But as I said, he got a nice straight punch to knock out Vinicius, and that's something that Lineker will have to watch if he does elect to open up. Bagautinov, in the fight against Elliott, was doing a lot of swinging and missing. He landed only 43 of 150 attempted strikes. Now, he won't have the same reach disadvantages in that fight that he will here, but nonetheless, I think he was a little bit... he wasn't conserving his shots. He was just throwing wildly at points, and that wasn't helping him. He was looking to try and time Elliott as he came forward, land those big shots, throwing some left hook, or solid left hook and an uppercut, which can be very effective. And as I said, he landed a nice straight right in that fight as well. But he was slowing down a little bit of that bout. Lots of single strikes, which aren't going to help you against a guy like Lineker, who can put 4 and 5 punches together. And his offense was slowing against Marcus as well, too, or Marcus Vinicius as well, and that's something to keep in mind. Lineker has been submitted 3 times, including by Gaudenau in his debut, and Bagautinov, he's a heavily decorated Sambo fighter, good takedowns and throws if he can get the fight to the ground. He's physically very strong, he's a power grappler, excellent top control, good ground and pound. He has 4 submissions overall in his career. But he did have some trouble keeping Vinicius down on the ground. The size played an issue there. Same thing with Tim Elliott. He did take advantage of a couple of Elliott takedown attempts and reverse the position, but nonetheless, he hasn't overly impressed me with his grappling capabilities, and I don't think Lineker is going to shoot or look to take the fight to the mat, so Bagautinov is going to have to go and get those takedowns himself. Now, Lineker, this is not the first time he's faced a Sambo practitioner. He was keeping a very low level against Magomedov, and using those underhooks every time he shot in, tossing him off, and actually reversing the position and getting on top, which did a lot to throw Gashimov off his game. Now, Bagautinov, he has to land takedowns in this fight. He has to land power strikes. He has to avoid getting tagged with big combinations, and he can't let Lineker start piling the damage up and pulling away in what he's able to do. For me, Bagautinov, not enough volume, and he doesn't throw enough variety to keep up with the Brazilian. Lineker, he needs to outstrike Ali on the feet, land some significant power, maintain a pace that he can fight in case this bout goes long, because Bagautinov a tough dude. Nonetheless, my prediction is John Lineker to knock out Ali Bagautinov and defeat him, moving up in the flyweight ranks. In the UFC's heavyweight division, former UFC heavyweight champion, number 10 ranked 16-8-0 Frank Mir battles former Strikeforce heavyweight champion, number 9th ranked Alistair the Reem Overeem, 36-13-0 with 1 no contest. Now, Mir has coming in this fight with 3 straight losses, 2 of those losses coming by knockout, but he's faced the top competition in that string of defeats, facing Junior Dos Santos for the title, Daniel Cormier, and most recently Josh Barnett. Now, Overeem's coming off back-to-back losses, and he lost both those fights in comeback form. He was defeating Bigfoot Silva for 2 rounds before getting knocked out in the 3rd on an upset I predicted, and he almost finished Travis Brown, before Brown rallied back and stopped him with a series of kicks. Physically, 1 inch height and a 0.5 inch reach for Overeem, so the lengthwise not a big issue there, but Overeem's going to have a significant weight advantage. Mir is much smaller than he used to be, and Overeem's a very strong individual. I would wager, guess he will be the stronger of the 2 fighters. Now what we have here is Mir's chin against Overeem's combination of a gas tank and questionable chin. Mir, very famously, we know how many times he's been knocked out, which happens to be 7. Which has accounted for 7 of his 8 losses. Josh Barnett, Junior Dos Santos, Shane Carwin, Brock Lesnar, Brandon Vera, and the list goes on. Most recently, he was busted up on the cage by Josh Barnett. His chin has been badly damaged. For the most part, it is gone. Against heavyweights, all it takes is 1 shot, and that's a big issue with Frank Mir. Mir's a decent striker. He comes from that karate background. If he does stand on the feet, he throws some nice kicks, but his chin, again, is such a major issue that standing with a guy like Overeem is too big of a risk to even consider. Overeem, 15 wins by knockout, K1 level striker, smooth combinations, hard kicks, brutal knees, especially along the cage. Now, his defensive striking has some question marks. We've seen that of late. He makes some silly mistakes. Maybe that's from fatigue or whatever it is. Nonetheless, he's still a talented striker. We saw him destroy Brock Lesnar along the cage with some serious knees, and he was overwhelming Travis Brown in that same position and nearly put him away, and the referee could have very easily stopped that bout if he felt Brown was not responding. The chin for Overeem is still a major question mark. He has been knocked out 9 times in his career. Now, he's fought more than Frank Mir, but nonetheless, 9 knockouts is pretty significant. Bigfoot Silva took him out. Travis Brown took him out. But prior to that, he hadn't been knocked out since 2007 against Sergey Haritonov, so he had a long stretch of fights where his chin wasn't an issue. Now, Overeem has gassed in both of his last fights, and overall in his career, he's 5-6 in fights that go beyond the first round, which is something to keep in mind, while he's 31-7 in fights that end inside the first round. So here's the big thing. On the mat, Frank Mir is a superior technician, but Overeem's no slouch on the ground. Keep that in mind. Overeem's 19-1 in fights ended by submission. His lone fight loss was back in Pride, I believe, against Fabricio Verdum, who subbed him off his back with a Kimura. Overeem's very hard to take down. 77% takedown defense. He's so strong in the clinch and just difficult to get off his feet, especially when he's not tired. If opponents do shoot on him, he has a very strong guillotine. He likes to lock in, and he can put guys away with that. Brutal from the top, excellent ground and pound. We saw Antonio Silva have a lot of trouble getting him on the floor. But for Frank Mir, he needs to get this fight to the floor. That's no question about it. And he needs to be in top position. He's good off his back, but he does not want to spend. If he goes to his back, he's got to start chaining submissions together, put Overeem on the defensive quickly. Mir's a BJJ black belt. He's 9-0 in fights ended by submission, including tapping out Big Nog and putting Czech Congo to sleep. As I say, he's very good off his back, but that ground and pound risk that Overeem can generate, we saw like Brock did, it's just way too much. And the thing with Mir, he hasn't put up big takedown numbers. 6 takedowns versus Roy Nelson. Other than that, he hasn't done much of anything, and that's a major concern against a guy like Overeem, who's going to be difficult to slow down. If Mir can land a big strike early and hurt Overeem like he did Congo, he could set up a submission, and that's something he needs to look for if he's forced to engage on the feet. Mir has had trouble getting pinned on the cage. That's what this fight comes down to. He's had trouble, though, in the past getting pinned on the cage by opponents. Cormier controlled him there. Shane Carwin held him there and put him away. Barnett did the same exact thing. For Overeem, he stopped Brock Lesnar on the cage. He beat up Travis Brown in the same position. He holds him there, uses that strength, and loads with some serious shots. For me, Overeem was physically too strong for Bigfoot, which is very impressive. The big question is the PEDs. Is that an issue? We'll find out in this fight. Nonetheless, Mir is going to struggle to keep Overeem off him early. If he can't survive that early barrage, he's in trouble. I don't think he can survive it and take the damage like Brown did. So my prediction is Alistair Overeem to defeat Frank Mir by knockout. Co-main event time, and it's in the UFC's featherweight division. It's a title fight as the champion, Jose Aldo, 23-1-0, battles the number 2 ranked fighter in the division, Ricardo the Bully Lamas, 13-2-0. This will be Aldo's 9th WEC UFC title defense, hopefully as successful if he does win it. 5 UFC title defenses already. Now, Lamas hasn't fought for over 12 months, which is a little bit concerning, but he's 4-0 since cutting down to featherweight, which happened in his UFC debut. He stopped Matt Grice and Eric Koch via TKO, submitted Cub Swanson, and a very impressive performance in an upset fashion, defeated Hatsu Aoki by decision. Physically, very similar size-wise, so nothing to compare there. Aldo, for his side, he's a BJJ black belt. He's a brutal Muay Thai striker, just unbelievably dangerous. 14 wins by knockout and 2 by submission. He's also got 7 wins by decision. His only career loss was in submission loss back in 2005, and he's clearly cleaned up his grappling or anything that would lead to that. Lamas is a BJJ black belt, NCAA Division III wrestler. He has 4 wins by knockout, 3 by sub, 2 by decision. So he shows he can finish the fight anywhere, not nearly the level of the numbers that Aldo possesses. His 2 career losses, both by knockout against Yuri Alcantara and Danny Castillo, which both took place at lightweight back in the WEC. Now, wrestling has been the focus of many of Aldo's opponents, and I expect Lamas is going to come out with a similar approach here. He did struggle, though, to get Eric Koch down. He went 2 for 8 in that fight, and he averages 2.03 takedowns at 38%, which is not overwhelming numbers. He had a couple of 4 takedown performances very early in his career, but he's done no more than 2 takedowns per fight in his last 7, which is concerning against a guy like Aldo. If you can't get him to the mat, you're going to have to stand and trade with him, which is a difficult proposition for anyone. Aldo, 92% takedown defense. Many people tried to put him on the mat. Kenny Florian went 1 for 19. Frankie Edgar, who's the former lightweight champion, went 2 for 11. Mark Hominick did get him down after he got tired. It's that Nova União takedown defense, defensive and offensive wrestling from that camp. Excellent, and it's still proving to be a mystery for a lot of good wrestlers that haven't been able to solve it yet. Now, offensive wrestling for Aldo is very good. Now, people don't realize this. 69% takedown offense. He landed 5 against the Korean Zombie. Had a lot of success against Mark Hominick. Put him on his back 5 times as well. His fighters are focused so heavily on defending the striking that it opens up opportunities for takedowns, and he capitalizes and does a good job. Lamas has been taken down multiple times in fights before. Hatsu Aoki had a lot of success putting him on his back. Dave Jensen back in the WC had a lot of success as well. He could be very susceptible to a takedown in this bout if he focuses too much on the striking of Aldo, which, hey, it's something you have to do. Now, Lamas held his own with Aoki on the mat. He did lock up a couple close submission attempts, but he doesn't want to be on his back against Aldo. That's something you just can't afford to be. Place you can't afford to be. Now, striking statistically, Aldo, 3.29 strikes landed per minute versus 2.44 for Lamas. Strikes absorbed per minute are very close, under 2 for both guys, which is a good number. Aldo's kicks are fight-changing. They're very brutal. He devastated Uriah Faber with them, but he didn't throw a ton against the Korean Zombie. That's because he broke his foot very early in that fight. Will he be hesitant to throw, especially seeing what happened with Anderson Silva? Will Aldo be hesitant to throw considering that broken foot? I guess the question will be answered fairly quickly in that bout. His combinations are very fast. He throws a beautiful stepping knee. We saw him stop Chad Mendes with a knee shot, and he outlanded Frankie Edgar early, which is an impressive feat in its own right. Now, Lamas has significant power, but not on Aldo's level. He was struggling early with the speed and striking ability of Cub Swanson, which is something to take into consideration here. Now, Lamas has been KO'd twice, I previously mentioned. His chin is a bit of a question mark if he gets hit on the button by a guy like Aldo. Aldo's cardio could be a question if Lamas can push him, but considering Frankie Edgar couldn't carry a pace that slowed Aldo down enough to win the fight, I don't know if Lamas can do it. Lamas, for my money, has to find a nice mix of a heavy pace, land with power, find some success with his wrestling to get one of the first 3 rounds in his favor, and then pour it on late to take the final 2 if he can't stop Aldo. For Aldo, his volume and speed is simply superior to the challengers. He could land some takedowns, which wouldn't shock me, but I think he'll do the best part of his damage on the feet. And watch for those knees, especially when Lamas shoots in along the cage and tries to get him down. I think Aldo's going to look to devastate him with one of those. And my prediction is Jose Aldo to defeat Ricardo Lamas and retain his title via TKO. Main event prediction time, not the main event we were expecting, but still going to be a good fight nonetheless, as the bantamweight champion, officially the bantamweight champion now, Renan the Baron Barao, 33-1-0 with 1 no contest, battles the number 1 ranked former WEC featherweight champion, the California Kid, Uriah Faber, 36-2. Now, Faber's taking this fight on 1 month notice, roughly a month and a half after his last bout, since Dominic Cruz had to drop out because of another injury and was stripped of the title. Faber, as Dana's talked about famously, was a little hesitant to take the fight, said, no, let's do this. A month is a short period of time to prepare for a guy, but nonetheless, he has faced Barao in the past, so that's something to take into consideration because he has experience fighting this guy, so he's certainly prepared. At the same time, Barao will have experience for him, preparing for him. Faber 1 loss in his last 6 fights, which was against the champion. Only 3 losses over his last 11 against Barao, Cruz, and also championship material. We all know about Faber's situation there. Renan Barao, 21 straight wins, 31-0 with 1 no contest after losing his MMA debut, which is impressive. He has wins over guys like Chris Cariaso, Brad Pickett, Scott Jorgensen, Mayday McDonald, Eddie Wineland, and of course Urijah Faber. You look at Urijah Faber, though, look at the guys he's beaten in the division. Number 2 ranked Michael McDonald, number 3 ranked Rafael Sanza, number 4 ranked Eddie Wineland, number 7th ranked Takei Mizugaki. Goes on, number 9th ranked Yuri Alcantara, number 14th ranked Ivan Menjivar, former top 10 ranked Scott Jorgensen, and former champion Brian Bowles, and he finished 6 of those guys, plus also an early career victory over number 12th ranked and former champion Dominic Cruz. Urijah Faber has beaten a ton of guys, he just can't seem to get the big championship gold win. Nonetheless, is this the last shot for Urijah Faber? Most likely not, but still I could see why people would consider it. He's such a good fighter and has beaten all there is. You have to assume at some point he will be fighting for the title again. I would expect he has a fight with Dominic Cruz down the road, whether it be for the title or not. But I expect Faber's going to come out a little more desperate and looking to do more than he did in that first meeting. Now that first fight was 19 months ago, mid-2012. Barao took it on all judges' scorecards, or the first judges' scorecards, and then the 2 judges did give a round to Faber. Nonetheless, it was a pretty dominant performance by the Brazilian. Now Barao outlanded him 85-62. Seemed like a lot more because Barao's strikes were far more impactful than Faber's. He landed big shots and knocked Faber back, while Faber's shots always caught him at the end and didn't do a lot. Urijah really struggled with the range in that fight. He couldn't get inside and land anything with significance. He failed to pull the trigger in a lot of opportunities. He had some success in the 3rd and 5th round with his volume, but it just wasn't enough to make a big enough impact to steal anything of significance. Faber, for me, is a very unorthodox striker. He uses his speed very effectively, but just like Aldo was and Barao was and Barao will be again, when they are the faster fighters, it really takes away a lot from Urijah Faber. And we've talked about Dwayne Bag Ludwig's striking impacts, coaching with Alpha Male, but I think it's been overstated a little bit, and we've seen that recently. Now, strikes landed per minute, 3.66 in favor of Barao versus 2.71 for Faber, so an edge there. Strikes absorbed per minute, very close. It favors Urijah a little bit, but not that much to make a big impact. Now, Barao, we did see him get buzzed by Michael McDonald early in that fight, and Faber has power. We saw him, he hurt McDonald as well, and he has 7 overall knockouts. Renan Barao, 7 wins by knockout in his career, including the Eddie Wineland stoppage. He's a more varied striker than Urijah, throws a lot of leg kicks, good combinations, just very difficult to deal with, and with a lot of what he attacks with. Faber, 0 for 6 in his takedown attempts in that first meeting, never very close to get the fight to the ground. Now Urijah has landed a takedown in 5 of his 6 UFC wins, including 4 against Yuri Alcantara and Scott Jorgensen. So wrestling is very important to Uriah's success. Faber can do a lot of damage from the guard if he does get the fight to the ground. He's very strong. We saw him ground Yuri Alcantara, and this is where he needs to get Barao. If he can keep striking close, takedowns and top control would be huge for Urijah in this bout. Barao, though, 95% takedown defense. He was taken down once in his WEC career, and that's it. Jorgensen went over 7. We talk about what Faber struggled with. Barao's a BJJ black belt. He's very dangerous, even if he does go to the ground on his back. 14-0 in fights ended by submission. Submitting Brad Pickett, Chris Cariaso, and Michael McDonald, all impressive names there. Good wrestler. Landed he's had multiple big takedown games. Again, guys focus on the defense, but Barao has excellent offensive grappling as well. Now Faber, 59% takedown defense. He's been taken down a number of times. Cruz took him down 4 times. He was taken down early by Yuri Alcantara. I wouldn't be surprised to see Renan Barao look for a takedown and put Faber on his backside. Faber's a very good wrestler, but that Nova União training camp, Barao and Jose Aldo, they've just trumped what Alpha Male brings to the table in Faber and Mendez. Could TJ Dillashaw be next? That's another question for another time. But so far, we haven't seen the Alpha Male guys get to take advantage and do anything significant against these Nova União guys, and I think they continue to have their number. Faber's going to take some more risks in this matchup and push the pace unlike the last fight. It will be closer, but I still have Renan Barao defeating Urijah Faber by decision to retain his bantamweight title. So those are my UFC 169 main card predictions. All the preliminary picks will be available at kamikazeoverdrive.net, so make sure you check that out. Make your own picks in the public pick section. Check out the prediction panel. Buy my bet packs. There's a lot going on, so thank you as always for listening. And we've got a lot of MMA ahead of us as we kick off 2014. Kamikaze Overdrive MMA predictions.